Hi everyone, it's great to be here today. I have plans to show you how to make a delicious raw vegan dessert, and I just realized I don't have a name for it. In addition to the dates, you're also going to need some raw almonds, quite a few apples, organic apples, and then some raw unrefined coconut oil if you can find that. We're just going to use a little bit of that, and I also have a little bit of pink Himalayan salt, sea salt, that we'll use. So now we'll get started. I'm going to slice these apples up. Okay, and you're going to need at least one apple per person that you're serving, maybe two, depending on how much they think they want to eat. I'm going to cut these into just smaller pieces, bite-sized pieces. Place them in the bowl. Now while I'm doing this, mention real quick, because maybe some of you are new to raw foods or just need a reminder as to why we are eating raw food. Why are we being that deviant from traditional society? And the reason would be because we have living bodies, and living bodies need living food. And the life in food is caused or is present as enzymes. You need enzymes. So enzymes are kind of fragile, and once enzymes are heated over about 104 degrees, they die. So then you no longer have a living food, you have a dead food. So once you've cooked your food, it's dead. And I would love to have somebody try to argue with me that you can get life by consuming dead foods. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make sense. So by consuming your food raw, for instance, this apple contains everything that this apple needs to be digested. The body does not have to create enzymes to do this. Once a food is cooked, the body then has to produce the enzymes to digest them. At any rate, it's going to use energy. It's going to take energy from the body instead of providing energy for the body like this does. People will say things like, well, God gave us meat to eat. If you are looking at the Bible, then it does appear so. Interestingly enough, though, you also note in the Bible that the lifespan went from 1,000 years down to 200 or less in about 5 generations after it was declared okay to eat meat. And in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis 4:29, it says that I give you every fruit and herb bearing seed, and this shall be as food for you. So right there, right at the beginning of creation, we are given a blueprint for what our species is meant to consume. We spend an awful lot of time and energy putting the wrong kind of fuel in our bodies, and we pay the consequences for it. Because when you're eating cooked food, you're basically taking in acids, especially from meat, dairy, and sugar. You have this decaying carcass in your body, and dairy with all its pus and mucus forming in your lymph system, clogging it up and keeping it from moving and becoming the perfect breeding ground for bacteria and viruses and parasites and all kinds of things that you don't want in your body. This is a very clean way of eating, because fruit is cleansing, and it's gonna run through you, cleansing and energizing and nourishing and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so I'll stop ranting, and we're gonna move on to what's next. We have our apples. Now we're gonna make a caramel sauce, a raw vegan caramel sauce to go over the top of that. So let me get the ingredients ready for that. For the caramel sauce, we're going to be using an apple. I pitted maybe about 10 to 12 dates, and we're going to use just a little bit of sea salt and some coconut oil, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and slice up the apple. Oh, and you need a Vitamix or other high power blender. I prefer the Vitamix because it goes fast enough that it's going to warm up this caramel sauce a little bit, which makes it taste really great. It's not going to get it too hot though. We're not going to be losing any enzymes. In fact, this Vitamix, I know it looks kind of raggedy. You've probably seen other YouTubers that have that cool new copper one that's, you know, that they have now. This Vitamix is 10 years old. I got it back in 2007, and it actually made it through Germany. You know, in Germany, they don't have the same electrical output. They have 220 volts instead of, what do we have, 140? Anyway, it's more. And so you have to use a transformer with your appliances. And most appliances don't perform very well after you've spent 4 years using them on a transformer. I lost my sewing machine. You know, I came back here, plugged it in, pop. It just couldn't handle the transfer. But this thing is still going. It's kind of like the Velveteen Rabbit to me now. It's old and raggedy. I think the little thing is cracked, but I haven't gotten a new one. It's working. Why would I get a new one? Anyway, I sliced an apple. I placed it in there. I suppose you could leave the coconut oil out if you didn't want to mix fats with sugar, and I'll explain why that's a problem for some people. Fruit sugar is in and out of the bloodstream in a heartbeat. It doesn't hang out there long, and it goes straight into the cells and does not require insulin to pass through the cell wall, right? So to me, that's just the best sugar you should be consuming. That's you know, the least amount of energy required of the body, and you're not wearing out your pancreas and your adrenals and all that. Once you have fat in your bloodstream though, it will hold the fruit sugars in the bloodstream for a longer amount of time. And so if you have candida issues or other indications that you're like pre-diabetic or diabetic, then you are not going to want to combine fats with sugars, certainly not on a regular basis. So you could try leaving that out. I think it would still taste good. The coconut oil gives it a little more thickness to it, body, I guess you'd say. And so I go ahead and use some. I don't feel like I'm using a lot. That was like 2 tablespoons, I think. And it's for 2 people, so tablespoon of oil apiece. And this coconut oil, which I think, which operates a little bit differently in the body than others do. It's got, I don't know, something about the, never mind. Okay, never mind, I can't explain it. Okay, so, and I'm gonna put just a little bit of salt in there. Now, I'm gonna turn on the Vitamix. Oh, I almost forgot my dates. Dates in. I'm going to turn on the Vitamix and I'm going to let this run for a good while because I want it to get warm. Okay? You may need to add, and I'm going to, you may need to add just a little bit of water. Be careful that you don't add too much though, or that's going to mess up the consistency and you'll have a very runny caramel sauce. I need the plunger for this. So not only does the caramel sauce taste good warm, but you want to blend it until it's warm anyway to melt your coconut oil, unless you want to melt it beforehand. Carefully, not very warm. That's actually delicious. Yay! Okay, so I'm gonna leave this in here for a minute so that can stay warm, and then we're gonna pour that over the apples in a bit. But next I want to go ahead and make the crumbly topping that we're going to put on it. And then we'll be all done. Oh, I've switched now to a food processor. You can make this in the Vitamix or other blender, but I think it's a little easier as far as getting it out, because it's going to be sticky, to use this. The first thing we're going to put in are some almonds. I don't know how many I'm putting in. That was definitely a cup, at least. You don't have to use that many. I also have another handful of pitted dates that I am putting in. And then we're gonna use some more salt, just a little bit. And see, I barely have some on my spoon there. I don't like to go too crazy with salt, but I think you need some. And then we're ready to rock and roll with this. We are ready to assemble everything, put it together, and give it a taste. So I'm gonna take the apples, and then I'm going to pour over the apples the yummy, delicious, warm caramel sauce. And I don't know if you can see the consistency of that. Ooh, it's so pretty and delicious. I'll save some for this one. I'll have to stretch this a little later. Okay, and then with this, I'll take this whole thing out. So you want a consistency where it'll kind of stick together. Like you could make balls, or those snack balls everybody makes, or a raw vegan pie crust, which I do sometimes. It should be kind of sticky, and I ended up adding twice the amount of dates that I originally did. I didn't show that part, so just kind of have to roll with it. I don't know why that was, if these dates are a little bit drier than what I'm used to or what. It's still going to be perfect and tasty, but it doesn't matter in the end. I'm going to now sprinkle this on top of the caramel sauce. You can use as much or as little as you want. And as an extra little bonus, I'm going to add some raw cacao nibs. And I know some of you have opinions about cacao. I don't care. I'm going to use it. And if anybody knows the formal definition of what a nib is, because I honestly couldn't tell you. It's a little bitty, it's a nib. So I'm going to put some of those on here. Now I'll show you what it looks like. It's so yummy, okay? So now I'm going to eat this. Taste it for you. But ultimately you'll have to make your own to get the full effect. It's perfect. This is my lunch. I hope you try it and enjoy it. And until next time, I'll see you later. Anyway, so do you want me to tell you the story of how I got my Vitamix? Okay, keep in mind this was 10 years ago, and I am so much more mature now. And I would never do this. This is going to be, well, I'm going to be telling on myself, and this is lesson 101 in what not to do in your marriage, okay? I was at Sam's with my kids, and they were doing a Vitamix demo. And they were making all this stuff and giving out all these samples. And my kids were like, Mom, please, please, please buy the Vitamix. We want it. Please get it. And I was already at a weak point because I was just getting into the world of raw foods. And my husband had been so kind as to purchase for me a Green Star juicer within the last 6 months before that. And I had asked him, I said, I kind of need a Vitamix too. He's like, nope, this is all for now. You have your juicer. Make good with that. Well, I knew we had the money in our account. And the kids were putting pressure on me, not to blame little innocent children, but it did kind of tip the scales. And I thought to myself, well, if I buy it, he'll be mad, but then I'll still have the Vitamix, right? So sure enough, I bought it, and I got home, and he was very mad about it when he came home from work, and to the point that I was just feeling horrible. And I was going to go ahead and take it back the next day. I'd made this huge mistake. You know, he couldn't believe that I had done something, that he said, no, you know, we're not going to do this financially right now. And I did it anyway. But then he came back and he's like, no, just go ahead and keep it. That being said, this thing, I use it 3 times a day, at least 7 days a week. I mean, I've worn this sucker out. And she is very faithful to me. So that's just a little life lesson for you. If you want a Vitamix, don't do it that way.